I had 31 minutes before the auditor's shuttle put down, and I spent 20 of them hiding the music box. Not hiding Esh. She sat where she always sat at that hour, cross-legged on the cot at the back of the tent, running a fingertip along the seam where her left forearm met its housing, the way she did when she was working something out in her head. I hid the box because if Director Pell's people found it in her hand, they'd write behavioral mimicry, source unconfirmed on a form, and 3 years of small proof would collapse into a single line. 3 years since the raiders hit the nursery dome and I pulled what was left of a Sale child out from under a collapsed support beam, most of her gone, but the lattice behind her eyes still humming faint and steady on my scanner, the only thing in the wreck that was. Wartime triage law let me do what I did next, graft that lattice into a salvage shell, a maintenance unit's housing meant for cargo work, never for a child. Nobody signed off on it. Nobody had time. I just did it, and then I spent 3 years finding out whether anyone had come along with the lattice, or whether I'd built a very convincing machine that twitched like it remembered being a girl. The first time she hummed those 6 notes, I'd been 3 weeks past convincing myself the shell was just very good machinery, efficient mimicry, nothing behind the eyes. She did it in her sleep, quiet and steady, the way a person hums without knowing it. I sat up half the night with my hand on the housing where a heartbeat would have been, listening, and I didn't write it in the log. The shuttle set down hard enough to rattle my instrument trays. Director Pell came through the tent flap first, dust still clinging to his coat, a tablet already lit in his hand. Behind him, a younger woman in continuity gray, technician Orsa, her name tag said, carried a case I recognized from the manifests, a portable resonance rig, the kind used to read what's left in a shell after the person who built it is presumed gone. Dr. Voss, Pell didn't look up from the tablet. Your transfer report from the Halworth's Reach incident was never countersigned. Status reads unconfirmed. We're here to confirm it. She's been confirmed for 3 years, I said. By me, every day. By you, he said it the way you'd note a smudge on a lens. The office doesn't recognize caretaker testimony as transfer evidence. We recognize the rig. He nodded at the case. An hour, doctor, less if you cooperate. I looked past him at Esh, who had stopped working at the seam on her arm and was watching the 3 of us with that steady, unhurried attention she'd had since the day I first opened her eyes, not uncertain, not that morning at least, just taking the measure of a room the way she always did, filing it. Tell me what the rig does to her if there's nothing there, I said. If the lattice is inert, there's nothing to damage, Pell said. It's a diagnostic pulse. If there's residual activity, he shrugged, it resolves it, cleanly. Resolves it. I'd heard enough euphemisms in 30 years of field medicine to know that one meant erases, and erases meant whatever was left of a person stopped being there, all at once, with a clean readout to prove it. She hums, I said, at night. A 6-note line, always the same 6 notes in a key that doesn't exist on any Sale scale I've found. I never taught it to her. I've never heard it anywhere else. Pattern echo, Pell said. Residual oscillation in damaged tissue can produce repetitive output that resembles. She left a sock untucked on the 3rd night I had her. 1 sock every night for 2 years until the night I told her once, just once, that I liked having one corner of the world a little crooked. She never did it again. She started tucking both. Orsa had stopped unpacking the rig. Pell hadn't. Operator bias is well documented in long-term reconstruction cases, he said. It doesn't change the file. Technician, set up. Pell's comm chimed once and he glanced at it without answering, a queue of case numbers scrolling past, more than I'd expected. Sector-wide review, he said, almost to himself. 41 Halworth's Reach transfers, all unconfirmed. Yours is the first I'm running in person. The rest get the rig by remote protocol. Whatever the readout says, it stands. 41. I thought of every quiet child on every outpost between here and the Reach, sitting right now the way Esh was sitting. waiting on a number director. Pell would never come out to check twice. The wind picked up outside while Orsa worked, the kind of wind that found every loose seam in a frontier tent and made the whole structure breathe. I'd lived under canvas at Halworth's Reach for 11 years, and I knew that particular shudder. A storm front, an hour out at most, the kind that put extra load on the power spine running along the tent's ridge line, the one I'd been meaning to have re-sleeved for a season. "I'm not signing the release," I told Pell, while Orsa laid out leads on a tray. "Then I note non-cooperation, and we proceed under emergency provision, and your clinic license goes to review regardless of outcome." He said it without heat. That was the worst part. There was no cruelty in him to push against, just a man reading a policy the way water reads a slope. "Sit her up, technician." Esh didn't resist when Orsa came toward her. She never resisted anything. That was the trouble, 3 years of a child who'd learned the world by watching it happen to her. But she looked at me, just once, the way she did when she wanted to know if a thing was allowed. I shook my head. Not allowed, not by me. Orsa placed the first lead at Esh's temple, gentle, almost apologetic, and reached for the second, and the wind hit the ridge line wrong. I heard the spine crack before I saw it, a long tearing groan from the support strut overhead, the one I'd been meaning to fix, and then the whole ridge sagged 6 inches, and the live power coupling at its center tore free of its housing, and swung down into the tent on its own cable, sparking, right into the space where I was standing with my hands full of nothing useful. I had time to think, very clearly, that I was about to be in a great deal of trouble, and then Esh was between me and the coupling. She didn't flinch into it. She'd seen, I know now she'd seen because she told me afterward in her flat, patient way, the angle of the fall, the length of the cable, the half-second window before it would reach me. And she'd done the arithmetic the way she did everything, calm and complete, and put her own forearm, the salvage shell arm, the one that had never once been soft, into the coupling's path instead of letting it find me. The spark and the impact knocked her sideways into the cot. The coupling went dead against the shell's housing with a flat metallic crack and dropped, smoking, to the floor. Nobody moved for a second. Then Esh sat back up, unhurried, and looked at the scorch mark across her forearm with the same calm attention she gave everything, and said, in her flat, clear voice, "That would have caught your sleeve, Myra. You always roll them up wrong." It was the longest sentence she'd said to a stranger in 3 years. Orsa had a hand over her own mouth. Pell hadn't moved either, but his tablet had dropped to his side, screen dark, and he was looking at Esh the way you look at a readout you don't have a category for. "Residual oscillation doesn't do trajectory math," Orsa said quietly, to no one. "It doesn't have opinions about someone's sleeves." Pell stood there a long moment with the storm rattling the tent around us, and then he picked the tablet back up, and his thumb moved over it slow, and he didn't look at me when he said it. "Transfer confirmed. Halworth's Reach incident case closed." He clicked something shut. "Pack it up, technician. We're not running the rig today." He tapped something else into the tablet before he pocketed it. 41 case numbers. Status changed from remote protocol to in-person review pending. He didn't say why. He didn't have to. He didn't apologize. Men like Pell never do. The policy simply stops applying, and they walk on as if it had never pointed the other way. I didn't care. I watched them carry the rig back out into the wind, and then I sat down on the cot beside Esh and looked at the burn across her arm, and she looked back at me with those wide silver eyes, patient as ever, waiting to see what I'd do now that the danger was past. I found the music box where I'd hidden it, wound it once and set it down between us. The 6 notes came out small and clear under the noise of the storm, and Esh hummed the 7th, the one she always added, the one that wasn't in the box at all, the one that was hers, and for the first time in 3 years I let myself believe her.